special thank you for the synergy, for the commitment, for the technology of ClipperCreek in being part of and a major force in serving our electric vehicles. And we have a representative from ClipperCreek here. And Thomas, where are you? No, not you, Thomas, this other Thomas. Too many Thomases. Young Thomas. Okay. And as part of this, we're going to call up Ben French and Steve. With the support of ClipperCreek and inspired by this other Thomas, Tom Dowling here, who is literally one of the founding figures of SacEV and of electrification of vehicles in this country. ClipperCreek has established a Dowling/ClipperCreek scholarship at American River College for a student in their auto technology program that is pursuing studies and training to serve electric vehicles. We are now about to present the first annual Dowling ClipperCreek scholarship. And Ben, you want to?
Sure. Let me see it.
This is Ben French of the ARC Auto Technology Program.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having us. Thank you for all your support over several years. I've been at American River College since 2005. When I arrived there, one of the first things I sought to do was to integrate hybrid vehicle technology into our existing class curriculum. And over the years, that involved to adding electric vehicles to our curriculum. When we started to do that, Sacramento EV, you guys have been very supportive of what we've been doing, from taking tours to helping out with our college campus Earth Day activities, to the solar car race that you've helped out for I think well over 10 years now. We really appreciate your support. We are doing everything we can to train our future crop of technicians about electric vehicle technology and alternative fuel vehicle technology in general. And it's been a challenge. One of the things we've seen in the last few school semesters is that because the economy has improved and our job market in the automotive technology region is so competitive, a lot of our students are getting hired out and leaving our auto program before they're finishing. So they get the basics under their belt and boom, they're working at a dealership such as this Kia dealership or Nissan or Ford or Toyota or wherever, and they don't get to the more advanced classes, which happen to be our alternative fuels and hybrids and electric vehicle classes. Steve came to us last fall, and he was a student that came into our program, and the very first thing he talked to me about is he wanted to know more about alternative fuel vehicles. He was excited about them, and we had him lined up to take the hybrid class at night in the fall of last year. And unfortunately, because so many students have, get good jobs and get graduated from the program, that class didn't fill. And so since then, Steve has been just a great ambassador for our alternative fuels program. And so we have our alternative fuels class on the schedule for the fall semester. And I'm sure this time it's going to run because he has been really helping us drum up student interest. Most of our students come in and they don't know how a regular car works, much less an electric vehicle or a hydrogen fuel cell vehicle or anything like that. So they get a little bit overwhelmed, when we look at alternative fuels, because they're just trying to figure out the conventional things. And so those have been some of our challenges of continuing to grow our program and add classes, and Steve has been a great ambassador to help bring students in and get those classes up and rolling again. So it's been an interesting ride and a kind of a fun adventure in the program, and we've placed a lot of students, and that part's been really rewarding, and it's been really rewarding to work with Steve. So I'm very thankful to ClipperCreek and for you folks with the Electric Vehicle Association to give him this award. Steve, as a student, before he came to us, he's overcome all kinds of adversities, and he's just a great addition to the American River College program. So thank you, everybody.
in closer then.
All right.
I just want to thank everybody for your support of alternative fuels and electric vehicles in general. Make sure and support other companies such as the Battery Doctor out at McClellan that really help us a lot. And also tell your kids that technology is evolving, and if they want to stay in the industry, that they have to study the hard stuff too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Question?
One of the reasons our certificate has been so delayed is they needed to train their mechanics in hybrid technology. So thank you. Hopefully you can get these guys.
Yeah, that's our goal. I'm someone who I've been very fortunate to attend lots of factory training from different manufacturers, from Toyota to Honda to just all kinds of different manufacturers. A factory training usually is a 1, 2, 3 day affair. So if you don't enter that factory course with a lot of knowledge already, it's really easy to get overwhelmed. So I look at my job at the college is to give our students a good foundation so that if they work for a particular manufacturer, whether that is Chrysler or Tesla, when they go to that factory training, they can hit the ground running and they can absorb that information that they cram down your throat in 3 days and understand it and process it and really be able to service your vehicles correctly. So,
Well,
anyways,
and
it's
3 months, not 3.
yeah.
And as Ben is saying, what Steve sounds like he's been doing is helping get enrollment up. And those of us who have been in higher education know, as Ben is telling you, classes are canceled if they don't hit certain cutoffs. No matter how important the program is, higher education these days is about dollars and basically another version of butts in seats.
Yeah,
And
it's a big deal.
sadly,
Yeah.
That's the way it
I
works.
would
So
say,
thank you for that,
yeah,
Steve.
Steve's been great. American River College is really good with their resources and finances, which is a good thing. The downside of that is they're pretty strict on making sure that their classes have adequate enrollment before they run. We have done a lot of things outside of our normal classes to build up our alternative fuels program. Probably since I've been to a meeting last. One of the last meetings it seemed like I went to was when we put together the cutaway car for SMUD. And how many of you guys have seen that car? Okay, cool, very good. So since then, just so you guys know what we've been working on, even though we haven't been running as many classes as I would like, what we did do is we did an instructor training workshop all across last year where we took every auto shop teacher from here to the Oregon border. So we had instructors from Cosumnes River College right down the street. We had instructors from from Sierra College, from College of the Redwoods, just all over the place. And they came to our school and did hybrid vehicle and alternative fuel vehicle training. And then we purchased them all just a used second generation Prius so they could have something to kind of teach the basics with, and then fully equip them with a spare battery pack and an inverter and a Cat 3 multimeter and an insulation tester. So we did a lot to kind of gear up our sister schools who teach auto mechanics so they can all at least teach hybrid technology in their regular auto programs. And then through that thing that we did, through that grant that we worked and provided all this training, we did buy 2 things for our campus, which Steve is very excited to work on. We have our own Model S. It's just a 60, it's not like the big, it's not the dual motor or anything, but we have our own Model S and we have a fuel cell Mirai as part of our program. So, and I was gonna bring the Tesla here tonight, but my college president stole it for a board meeting, which is good because it gets him thinking about electric vehicles. He's always coming down to borrow the Tesla. But I brought the Mirai here with me tonight. So anyways.
So again, what I've done here is to bring up this young lady who was doing photography back there for ClipperCreek. This is our ClipperCreek representative, and she also has some token
Swag
kind of
bag
thank
for
yous
you,
to
some little
Steve.
goodies. You're welcome.
Directly from
Congratulations. Great things.
Congratulations.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right, let me give this microphone back to you.
Okay.
There you go, sir.
Okay, Randall. Where'd I lose Randall? I think there's only one Randall. I hope. The one and only Randall.
Well, good evening. those of you who don't know, my day job is I'm a civilian for the Navy, and I'm the representative of the California state government. So I'm based up here in Sacramento and work on a variety of issues, including electrified transportation and renewable energy. So it's been really fun for me the last 2 years to watch and participate in this project as sort of the Navy was trying to take the square peg of buying a fleet of EVs through the round hole of federal acquisition, that it was not set up to even comprehend the differences in acquiring a fleet, let alone things like rebates. And, anyway, the federal government is not very good at figuring out how to use rebates and things, but it was necessary to make the lease work. So we had a ribbon cutting down in San Diego. This is Naval Base San Diego. It's a home port for 60-plus ships, Coast Guard ships. It has a daytime population of almost 30,000 people. So it's basically a small city unto itself, and it's located on the bayfront in National City in Chula Vista, for those of you who know San Diego. This is the 58-car fleet there. Other than the DC fast charger from ChargePoint that you'll see, since we have ClipperCreek here, all of those stalls have a ClipperCreek level 2 that the Navy sailors learned how to put in. So it's also some training for the sailors who do the electrical work to learn how to do that. Okay, the next slide. So just a couple of facts and figures. The purpose of this was to deal with climate change and renewable energy and emission reductions as sort of a prototype. It's great in San Diego, and there are 10 installations throughout California, as far north of Lemoore in the San Joaquin Valley. But part of the purpose of this is to get these vehicles out in the community. People will see them, they'll see sailors driving around them, and it's kind of a vote of confidence that the Navy, which, we buy rugged, dependable things that have to do all sorts of difficult jobs, have reviewed this and said, yep, electric vehicles work for us. So it's really a great statement out in the community where these are going to be driven around, to show that it's not just, Tesla drivers, it's not just movie stars that are driving EVs, but it's normal work people. Our estimate is that this 205 vehicle fleet will eliminate 51,000 gallons of gas a year from our use. 205 vehicles throughout the state, heavily centered in San Diego, both with the Marine Corps and the Navy, because there's the San Diego metropolitan area is the largest military complex in the world. One of the interesting things about this that's also, I think, very cool is that these are forward focused. The second generation, they're built in Michigan, in Wayne, Michigan. This is one of the plants that President Trump made a big deal about, talking with Ford, that they put $1 billion into this plant. Part of that $1 billion was to change the plant to produce the EVs. We actually got the first 205 vehicles off that production line for this project. Now, that may be good or bad, as my admiral said when he was down there. He wouldn't want to be buying the first car off a production line, but I'm sure Ford will take good care of us. The project also included 92 charging stations. I mentioned, much of them were from ClipperCreek, and ChargePoint was the other vendor that we used quite a bit. And then we'll talk about the DC fast charger. Yes?
Just jumping ahead on that, the second generation Ford Focus have fast charging now?
Yes, it's the SAE.
They added it in, wow.
Yeah, it's a 30 kilowatt hour battery, and they got the SAE charger. If you could do the next slide. This is, again, it's been a great partnership. You can see all the cars. In this picture, it's including Ford, the Center for Sustainable Energy, the Energy Commission, and the center is Commissioner Hochschild from the Energy Commission. It's included ARB and the PUC and ChargePoint, of course. The guy on the right is one of the VPs from ChargePoint who was there. Next slide. And the actual ribbon cutting, charging it, it was another cool thing is we At the beginning of it, we plugged in a car that was about 30% charged. By the time all these people did their speeches, it was charged. And so this is a ChargePoint DC fast charger. One of the cool things about this installation, these 58 cars, is we have an agreement with Stanford University that we're going to share the data with them, and they're going to work on using this as a way to see how the cars are being utilized, the types of any problems, and so this is going to be a great pool of data under very controlled conditions to see how these work in a fleet setting. Again, to my knowledge, this, in terms of a government fleet, this is the biggest in the country at this point. And I also would, since we have you here from the ARB, ARB was great in this because, again, square peg, round hole, one entity, the U.S. Navy, trying to get 205 rebates, something like that, just hadn't been done, and they were very, very good at being creative about figuring out how this would work. And for example, they recognized, well, 10 different bases, so that means you can get your 10, your maximum rebates. And then within a base, you have, you know, shipping, you have different uses, again, small cities. So ARB was able to work the process. Again, we don't keep the rebates. It was part of the lease arrangement that made the lease available. One of the things that people don't realize about this project is, as the federal government, we simply could not buy EVs because we wanted to. We had to demonstrate that they were cost effective compared to a gasoline car. And we were able to do this. That's why these rebates were so important. And we were able to show, based upon the maintenance, the whole 3-year life cycle of the lease, that these would be cost advantageous to the government. Again, this is all part of the great symbolism of getting these cars out in the community and showing people that EVs are real and they can work, and hopefully get more of them. One of the I don't know if you guys know who Chris Keogh is. She was an assembly member, senator from San Diego, and she is now the executive director of the Plug-in Collaborative. She was one of the people down here, and she was, one of the great observations she made was, the exciting thing for her is you're going to get thousands and thousands of sailors and Navy employees driving their first EV out in town, and she thinks they'll just fall in love with them. They'll become ambassadors as well. So hopefully we're going to have a phase 2 of this. But even if the phase 2 doesn't happen, it's been a great project. And again, great partnership with the state of California. It couldn't have happened without a lot of hard work from the agencies. And I'm very proud to have been in San Diego and didn't get to drive one. But anyway, any questions? It was going to be in like another 220 vehicles, but politics, we'll see. There's a new sheriff in town. Any other questions? Well, let me know if you guys have any questions down the road. Oh yes, the last slide, the Admiral plugging in, and yes, it is a SAE, and it's, again, the great thing is it's part of this experiment to document it, and we're not even sure if they're going to need because they're going to have so many level 2s, but part of the research was to put one in.
Hello.
Good evening.
Hi, good evening, everybody.
Is it working? Yeah.
Can you hear me?
That's just for recording.
Okay. So over here we have the 2017 EV Soul. And if you can look at the Soul from the top down, you can easily tell you cannot find the actual battery of this vehicle because it's right under the floorboard of the vehicle. So it's under the floorboard of the vehicle. So whenever you're driving the Kia Soul EV, it's completely stable on the highway and street roads as well. It's very, very stable. So here we have the electric motor right here, and we have a regular battery right there for the EV Soul. And it comes with a level 3 charging standard. So most of the EV vehicles have level 1, level 2, but you get the level 3 as well with the Kia. It's standard on all the models. Right. So we have the EVE, which is more like the lower level, the base, and this is the EV Plus. So this is going to be a higher model. So one thing I really like about the Kia EV Soul is the charging port, the location. Anytime you're charging your vehicle and you lock your doors, you go away, nobody can go there and remove the cord. Like the Focus, the Ford Focus, you can take the plug out at any time. But as soon as you lock the door on the EV Soul, it locks the cord in place. So no one can go over there and take it out.
Battery range on these?
That is what's coming next for Kia. They're trying to increase the battery range because that's an edge Tesla have over Kia right now. So they want to increase the battery range and still make it affordable for people to own as well. That way you don't have to be too rich to own one at the end of the day.
So the dealership here has a test drive car outside for anyone who wants to actually take a test drive when we're done. And we'll be breaking up in roughly 15, 18 minutes, theory. Depends on how professorial I get. So one of the questions that I was asking myself as a perennial shopper is what's available, what's going to be available in the near future, what should I be waiting for, what might be tempting. And I may have missed some things, and I'm sure that Dave or Tom will be very shy about suggesting what I left out. But what I tried to do was to give us an overview of some interesting options between now and 2020. Things that are either very close or will be promised, and a few things that might simply be wonderful fantasies. I mean, I'm personally always living in fantasy land, so you can excuse that indulgence. Now, what is driving the changes in the EV market is this incredible and unanticipated dropping in battery costs. What we saw, these were predictions and actual cost numbers back in 2010 of literally $1,000 a kilowatt for battery storage. And the predictions at that time was that by the time we're in 2020, we might get down to around $200 a kilowatt. That's in 2020. Those were predictions made in 2010, 2011. What to all of our, what should be excited kind of optimism, is those battery costs are dropping way faster than any of those early predictions. And this kind of number out here, we're already down to around and under $200 a kilowatt. Depends on who you read, because most of the actual numbers are proprietary. Nobody really is giving out super hard numbers. They mumble once in a while, but it's not hard data yet. But it's getting way down under 200. Next slide. So again, $100 a kilowatt was the goal for 2020. It looks like that might be achieved even before 2020. At around $125 a kilowatt back in 2010, the prediction was the cost of an electric vehicle would be on parity with an ICE vehicle, meaning that the shopper has no dollar handicap to consider an electric vehicle. It looks like that point is, in fact, occurring. Next slide. Okay, this now commentaries from 2017 January Consumer Electronics Show that those numbers back from 2010, 2011 are way too conservative, and it looks like, oh my God, they may get down to around $80 a kilowatt. This is going to be huge. The estimates now are that the Chevy Bolt battery pack is only at $145 a kilowatt. That's really getting close to parity. Even though GM is saying they're losing money on that car, I haven't believed anything that GM ever said at the top for 20 years. I see no reason for any of us to believe that crap now.
Crap's a technical term.
Yeah, if at around $100 a kilowatt, the predictions are that the U.S. could see 1 million electric vehicles a year and another 1 million of plug-in hybrids. We are on the cusp of a total paradigm shift. Next slide. So what's coming, given this economic opportunity for the vehicles? Well, how many of us here have deposits on a Tesla Model 3?
Right here.
Yes. Well, you know, a third of us or so. You know, and I was talking, where's Randall? There's Randall back there, okay? Randall and I were talking beforehand, you know, and we're like this, because in about 3 weeks, we're actually going to find out what's the details on a Tesla Model 3. And three of us are anticipating a factory tour about that time to actually see them coming off the line. But at this stage, all we know about the Model 3 is it'll start at 35,000. It'll have 200 plus miles range, 215 miles plus. But Musk now has other motivations to make it better, who knows. There are at least a half a dozen pre-production cars on the road. Different ones have been seen literally all over the country. So it's going to happen. And as a personal report, Dave, where's Eugen? And Kadifa and I were down at the factory just a couple weeks, 3 weeks ago, and that Model 3 production line was coming together, gang. I mean, the number of new robots and stuff that they had ready to bring online. I think this could be the first time Tesla actually hits a production date. And yes, and you know, for those of you smarter than I that actually bought Tesla stock, I didn't see what it was at today, but you know, when I bought my first Tesla in 2013, the stock was selling for $33 a share. Last time I looked, it was at $312. So some people have free Teslas. Okay, now, yeah, besides this year, besides the Model 3, there's something that actually is a new startup coming out of Canada, because I kind of like special function cars. And this car coming out of Canada is a three-wheeler and a single passenger. So can we have the next slide? Why is it called a Solo? Because it's a single passenger car. And that's a great disadvantage, but I think it looks pretty neat. You know, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, Dave's wife thinks he's good looking. God knows personal taste. And, you know, it does have a trade-off to that single. Gotcha, Dave.
No, it's not a new company. It's the Kia Sparrow company that's now up in Canada.
Yeah.
They have redone it. Much, much better vehicle.
Much better vehicle. And what the trade-off is, and we can have that next slide, is price. $15,500. Before any incentives.
So under 10,000.
So, you know, again, if for someone who wants a commuter car, a little errand car, and something that looks kind of cute, again, I think it looks cute, it has some options, 0 to 60 in 8 seconds, and this vehicle is real, okay? You can log on and order this sucker right now. So as opposed to a Faraday Future, which might as well be called probably Faraday Dead, but, you know, this one exists. And it's got a lot of, you know, storage capacity. There's a neat little video on their website showing how much groceries you can get in the thing. I mean, it's amazing. Next slide. So, and it's got a decent little interior. But what's the beauty in this three-wheel format is these vehicles do not have to meet the same safety standards as cars. They're registered as motorcycles. So they slip through a notch in all the regulatory standards, which allows them to be a lot cheaper. Okay, next slide. Now, here's another one. I like the looks of this one better. Anybody heard of this company? Okay, see, I'm a shopper, I told you. And the Saunders outfit is an electric bike startup guy that basically decided he wanted to make a cheap electric bike, way cheaper than anybody else, and he targeted a $1,000 electric bike. He got Kickstarter money, and he got it off the ground and produced. Next slide. He ended up selling 17,000 electric bikes. So, you know, he knows a bit about production, about getting things going. But the bottom here, his goal was, after he did that, he wanted to build, look at, the Solo was $15,500. His goal is a $10,000 electric car. Oh boy. Yeah. So next slide. Now, there isn't any physical car yet, but he's got a bunch of startup investment money, and he's doing quite a bit of development. So next slide. If drawings are enough to start a fantasy, I mean, this thing, and this is a three-passenger. Three-passenger. 2 up front, 1 behind. So it's even a little more functional by far. Next slide. Here's another one. Anybody familiar with this one? I gotcha. Okay, see, this is new stuff, except for Dave, who knows everything.
Not that other one.
And I mean, I don't know how I ended up finding this, but when I found out it was from Poland, I had to include it because I just, my end of my academic career was a Fulbright appointment in Warsaw. So I have strong now kinship with everything Polish. And this is a tandem. So, you know, 2 passenger, 1 behind the other. It's really small, but this is taking orders without, but it's a separate price. So it's $8,600 for the vehicle, and then you have an option of a 3750 battery for 60-mile range or a 5750 for a 100-mile range. So you still end up with a really cheap second car for knock-around city use, and one that, I mean, got cool doors and some other neat stuff. Okay. Now we get to the real stuff. Okay? Now, this is so sad because the Honda Clarity as a fuel cell vehicle is actually quite interesting and just won a comparison in Car and Driver to the Mirai, hands down, as the superior vehicle. But Honda decided, in its eminent wisdom, to offer it also as a pure electric, which sounded really good. And the upside of the Clarity is, in that review in Car and Driver, it was described as having the very best interior Honda has ever done. A very gorgeous upscale interior.
We're waiting.
But the electric version, 85-mile range. Who in hell would do that?
And that's
in this?
questionable. It's only 24 kilowatt-hour pack.
Yeah. So next
You might
slide.
not even get that. But wait, back up though.
We don't know how to back up.
Oh, you do have the plug-in hybrid. Okay,
Yeah.
that looks like it's going to sell.
Yeah, the plug-in hybrid version is actually very promising. And they're both around $30,000. But again, this sort of highlight presentation was targeting only pure electrics, because there's a lot of options if you add up the plug-ins. Okay, but 84 miles range in 2017-18?
Well,
Yeah. But it's got a beautiful interior, so if you just want to live in it, you buy the Honda Clarity.
and they redesigned it too. The original
Yeah, this is
Clarity
the version
was
2.
nicer.
Yeah, this is the version 2.
I don't know why they changed it.
Okay, next one. Now, out of the sister company for Kia is some incredible set of options involving the Ioniq EV that basically is coming also in 3 different versions: hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and a pure electric with 124 miles of range. And the EV starts around 30,000 before incentives. So this is a 5-passenger EV. Next slide. With some neat regen that apparently is paddle controlled, which is a feature I haven't seen yet. So, I mean, it sounds neat. Yeah. But in a pure EV, that's, you know, I haven't seen it. But the Volt, yeah, the second generation Volt has it. And what again, some of you EV people, I don't know if you agree with me on this one, but I really think all of our cars should have some sort of artificial exterior noise that's at under 20 miles an hour. I mean,
That's
it
not
just,
due till next year with our Audi
Yeah, but I mean, I think, you know, I'm totally on board with that one. And this one has it. Yeah. Yeah, and I do. I roll down and turn up the stereo or just curse at people. Works the same way. Yeah, this is why I really wasn't very popular in the university. You can kind of see my social skills were lacking. Okay, good point. Okay, next slide. Okay, now we get into the promissory. But this is pretty real, because the picture here of the Jaguar I-Pace, and I saw this down at the LA Auto Show, the concept car version, you know, gorgeous. And this particular picture was just on the internet the last week, and what it appears to represent is a production-ready car that's being taken out for road testing. You know, flatbedded out, but it's production-ready. So again, we don't have any pricing information, but it's going to be pitched on the high end. Yeah.
Is this a unique car, or is it a...
Yes.
So there's no other, like, ICE version?
No. It's a complete platform for electric. This is a 90 kilowatt lithium ion. Yeah.
It's on
So
SacEV's website.
yeah.
You can find
So
out about it.
next slide. Promised for this next year that production close cars are out and being tested. Interior looks, I mean, again, I've seen it. It really does look nice. And next slide. So 90 kilowatt battery. European standard 500 kilometer range. US will be at 220 territory. Not really yet set up for really fast charging, but those specifications are still emerging. Okay, next slide. And how many of you have Nissan Leaf or had one? And most of us, you know, actually almost half of us were either are Leaf owners or were Leaf owners. There will be a second generation Leaf. We don't know exactly what it looks like. The camouflage photos are really good camouflage. Supposedly it's some takeoff of this concept car from a year and a half ago. Next slide.
But
Not
the range we want.
We don't know, you know, but the general discussion is that there'll be at least 2 different battery sizes, some new semi-self-driving technology, and it's supposed to debut, what, in the next couple of months?
But the latest
August or
articles
so?
are saying that their 200 plus mile one may be pushed back to 2020.
That will be
This
bad.
would be 150 mile instead.
Yeah, that would be
I hope
unfortunate.
they don't do that.
Yeah. Next slide. Now we get into the more speculative territory. So, you know,
Lucid.
the 2011 was the debut of the Tesla Model S. The first production cars were out in 2012 and delivered. Now, that makes 2017, 2018 kind of what we call long in tooth for a typical vehicle. So there really should be pretty soon a second generation Model S. We all know that the Model 3 is coming, but shortly after that, what about a Generation 2 Model S? Many of the car websites are speculating that besides a battery upgrade, that by 2019 there will be potentially some aesthetic and design changes in the Model S. This was a takeoff concept version of what a next generation Roadster might look like. Might. Okay, but what about the Model S? Next slide. The rumors. That's what we're talking about now. When we move out to 2019, we're talking in the area of rumors. But, you know, hell, I'm still looking for a date for Friday. So, you know, I'm forever optimistic.
What year?
Any year, for God's sakes. So rumors are I'm willing to live with. It's kind of part of the fun. What's going to happen with the next generation? This is hard, okay? Larger than the current one? That's scary because my personal niggle with the Model S is it's too big. At least it's too big for me. What's certain is this part right here. About a year ago, Tesla hired the top interior designer from Volvo. And one of the almost universal judgments on the Model S is the interior is blah. It's just not that inspiring. And particularly, you know, when for some of us that optioned up our cars, and we're sitting with, you know, Tesla Model S's that cost more than $120,000, and if we park them beside a nice S-Class, sitting still, the S-Class wins. Of course, once we start moving, it's a different story. Okay, so that interior improvement is a near certainty for the second generation, could come even as early as 2018. Next slide. Okay, now this is the immediate counterpoint. This just came out this past week. VW, in trying to drum up attention and positive image, is pointing out that if Tesla can do whatever, they can do it better. And they think they can. And I mean, again, I think this is cool. You know, an electric van, minivan thing, that'd be cool. And they've got test versions, concept versions of that, 2019, 2020 maybe. And, you know, this is their small car concept thing, which they're saying could be a Model 3 competitor. Of course, they have to build it. But, you know, by 2019, we may be seeing those. Next slide.
Left that out.
No, I didn't leave it out. It's down the road.
Okay. Lost with VW.
Yeah. Tesla's okay. VW's punchline, our ambition with the new architecture is to stop them there, to rein them in. But, you know, if you think about when Elon Musk was getting Tesla off the ground, his goal was not necessarily to take over the auto world, but to disrupt it and get the big players in the game. And boy, has that come together. Next slide. Okay, I have a deposit on this, because anything with 1,000 horsepower that'll do 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds and go 215 miles an hour, I'm okay with. And, you know, and I kind of like the interior, particularly the option there in the back seat. And the announcements on this one, because these guys might make it.
They might.
They might. And, you know, they've announced that their base price car is $60,000. That's way less than anybody really anticipated. And that they're optioned out, you know, 1,000 horsepower, yeah, that'll be above 100,000.
Yeah,
but so, you know, I mean, I keep pricing a P100D with Ludicrous, and that's 151, 152,000. You notice I said pricing? Okay, next slide. So Lucid specs, these guys, I've tried to get these bigger. Starting price 60,000, 240 mile range, 400 horsepower, all the hardware like Tesla for autonomous driving, big interior, power front seats, all the, I mean, it really does sound pretty good. And then next slide. Options up to 400 mile range, 1,000 horsepower. They didn't include that brunette though, so I'm maybe not. Okay, next slide. Anybody hear about these guys? Yeah. How many? Okay, but see, these guys have been completely under the radar, and they may be ahead of Lucid and everybody else because they own a factory. They bought the Mitsubishi factory in South Bend, Indiana, and moreover, they're making money already because they're renting out parking space in the factory lots to VW for storage of all those recall diesel cars being repaired or ready to be crushed. So they've got a cash flow and they've got a factory. They haven't shown a design, but they're promising 2019 territory. So keep your eyes open because Rivian could pop up with something interesting. Okay, next slide. And next slide. I like this one too. Because these guys, you know, decent range, super fast charging, decent performance. Of course, Tesla will leave it massively behind.
15 minutes to 80%.
Yeah. Next slide. And a lot of gee whiz features. Cool doors. I really wonder why Tesla doesn't have a heads-up display, because I really think, how many gadgets, what I can say. And supposedly, on the Mission E, if the driver changes position, the instrument panel recognizes physically that the driver's moving in the seat, and it changes the orientation of the display. Next slide. BMW dreams, mostly at this stage fantasy, but fun stuff. Next one. They're already in the game. Electric Mini promised absolutely in 2019. All electric X3 in 2020. Goals to sell 100,000 EVs by 2025, and a rendering of what their mid-size car might be. Next slide. And of course, on second generation i3. Next slide. I just looked at my watch. I'm over time. Mercedes, they'll be there. They have real vehicles, and they have huge government pressure. And again, the specs on this, 0 to 60, it's going to be a Model X kind of competitor, probably and hopefully cheaper, but we'll see. Neat interior. Next slide. Howdy! Dave is happy.
Q4, that's not the e-tron.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but that's Q4 concept.
Well, this is the version that they're saying, yeah. Next slide. So the CEO of Audi says that the first thing will be the SUV with a 370-mile range. And again, the 2019 territory, they're coming. So next slide. Faraday dead. Yeah, this had a lot of promise, but,
Somebody else pulled out.
yeah,
Financing it.
yeah, they just don't have any money. Next slide. Next EV, anybody hear about them?
Yeah.
I actually heard the CEO of Next EV speak at the LA Auto Show, and it's a incredibly glib and impressive woman, technology person, and their whole spiel is less about the performance of the car as opposed to the function of the car. Next slide. To change your life as you commute, because it's a Bay Area based kind of an LA and big city in China where people are stuck in their cars and for long periods. And so the goal with Next EV is to turn the car into a comfortable environment to relax and do other things while you're moving from point A to point B, which is an incredibly interesting and alternative concept.
Pulls down their bed, doesn't it?
Lots of options. Next slide. So this is tentatively what their car will look like. They do have a hypercar, a supercar that they've built that hits up around 200 miles an hour, and in a fully autonomous version has done something like 170 miles an hour on the track, driving itself.
Never made it when it crashed.
Shh. Next slide. And lastly,
Yeah, this one.
again, this is one I liked, but because I'm a dreamer, I will finish with that because it kind of looks like a smoother Tesla,
Yeah.
but these guys' money is just
They're connected with
evaporating.
Faraday.
They're connected with Faraday,
Yeah.
same funding and same disaster. So, if you want to shop for a cell phone, these guys make cell phones. And they tried to make it into the U.S. market, and, that kind of didn't go very well either, but you can get some good prices on Lee Echo cell phones on Amazon.
iPhone clone.
Okay. And same guy, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Okay, before he leaves, there's one more vehicle he didn't talk about plug-in hybrids, but there's something we've been missing all along, and that's a working truck. Yes.
Yeah.
There is one coming next year, W15 from Workhorse.
Yep.
And it's 50 to 60 miles range electric and gasoline after that, full 1 ton, and it can tow a 5,000-pound trailer.
And provide some power outputs too.
Yes, power outputs, yeah, 240 volt power output.
Yeah.
And 45,000 after incentive.
Did you mention the Kia Niro?
No, because it's a plug-in hybrid. Yeah,
Well, you mentioned Ioniq plug-in hybrid.
yeah, only because there was an EV. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, the Kia Niro is an incredibly neat hybrid, plug-in hybrid, worth looking at as well. If you need, for example, it seems to me plug-in hybrids meet a function if you're a single car family. Because, you know, other than Tesla, I don't think you can really easily take a road trip in an electric car. But any of the plug-in hybrids really do work. Well, yeah, well, that's what I said. Yeah, I don't want to let my horse rest or, go out to pasture on a trip. Anyway, thank you very much. And again, there's chances if you want to drive one of the Kia Soul vehicles. And again, for those of you that may not know him, the namesake for the Dowling ClipperCreek Scholarship is right here, our own Tom Dowling.